showtime. Boom, 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 boom. Am I right or am I right? Welcome to the show, everybody. Tell you what, my shoulder's feeling okay, not great. There, you got a double salute. That's what I've got for you. Welcome to the show. My name is Chris. This is the weekly Spinner Rack, and that's a show where I talk about the latest comics that I've picked up, as well as comic book news. And I chat with all of yous. Kind of rhymes there. That's pretty cool. We're going to have a good time. Let's see who's here. All of a sudden, tons of people popping up in the chat. So let me just give a few shout outs. Let's see. There we go. Hello, Michael DeFonte and Erwin Papa. That's me, Chris. That's at least how Cobra Commander says it. Let's see. We've got the Beowulf, and we've got William Soltau. Let's see. We've got Paul S. Both your shows rule. Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of you might know me from Comic Tropes. That's where I sort of do fully edited reviews and occasionally interviews. And then I've got this channel as well to do live streams. Double salute from Mexico City. Well, muchas gracias, Francisco. Appreciate that. And hello, Moritaka. Hello, EJ, still in Taiwan. So let's see. We just got Mexico City, Japan, Taiwan, and I'm pretty sure Joe Dent is somewhere in the UK. So, yeah, we've got like a nice little international get together today. That's kind of fun. Appreciate it, folks. Kansas, we've got the United States represented. Not bad. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. There's some pain. There's definitely still not full flexibility, but it's a lot better than it has been. Oh, somebody from Washington. Hello from Portugal. Obrigado. Thank you so much for being here. That's really, really exciting. Mi pronunciación es bueno. Honduras. Oh my goodness. This is interesting. That's really cool, especially since I know that this isn't like necessarily going to be perfect for everybody's time zone, but it's really exciting to know. Sorry, I'm just adjusting like the blinds for my window here. My cats have knocked it down off the shelf. I guess I can't fix that right now. Who cares, right? Who cares? Let me have a little bit of this Kofive. This is really cool. This is exciting to see so many places in the world represented. Finland, Cancun. Oh my God, lucky you. Hey, look at that. We've got somebody watching on Twitch. Thank you, Big Gay Dave. Yeah, I am streaming on Twitch today as well as YouTube, just to see what happens. Maybe slowly build up my Twitch presence. I think that would be fun to use that every once in a while. Buenos Aires. I would love to go there. That's so cool. I love traveling, and in a way, it's like frustrating that I am doing my next trip somewhere that I've been, but sometimes you like to go places that you really love. And so I'm going back to Japan in September, but there's so many countries that you're mentioning here that I'm like, oh man, I would love to go to various parts of South America. And I would like to go to like Finland and Sweden and so on. Hey, Canada's, every time I've been there, like, it's always been a fantastic time, but I have to admit, I've only been to, Toronto, Vancouver, and is it called Niagara Falls on the Canadian side? I guess I don't know. But anyway, Saturn. Wow. You must be getting my first broadcast from like 7 years ago. Anyway, okay. That was fun. Thank you all for like contributing there. Right. Okay, had a small glitch there. Let's let's start with news. We're going to have, the computer's having a little bit of trouble, so it's like lagging here and there. And then I'm going to get into the various comic books that I picked up this week. Give sort of mini reviews, recommendations, or not. And let's see. I think. Let me also give you an update on like where I am with Comic Tropes real fast. I might be able to finish editing tonight. I am trying everything I can to get the show up for tomorrow, since it's a holiday in the US and a lot of people might be available to watch it. That would be nice. I thought I could get it ready this past weekend, but I realized I needed to record a few more pieces. I want to, if I'm going to do the episode, I want to do it right. So I'm furiously editing, taking some time out to do this. Good mental health break. Then I'm going to get back to editing, and we'll see if I can get it done tonight. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm working on. And then I might take Thursday or Friday off to go get the new computer. And then maybe these streams would be even clearer, which would be lovely. We've got a good friend here jumping in. We got my buddy Hooded Cobra Commander 788 tuning in to see if I'm the new Superman actor. Well, you're going to have to wait and see, Hoodie. I'm not going to talk about that quite yet. But since you are here, let me give you props for this. Every July, Hooded Cobra Commander, or really just every summer. I don't know if it's always been in July. It might have been in August, but I think it's July all the time. Hooded Cobra Commander helps organize the G.I. Joe fan community and puts out Cobra Convergence 7, which just means, look, we mostly talk about Cobra, the bad guys in G.I. Joe. And so there's all sorts of podcasts and YouTube shows and blogs and etc. Doing content about Cobra every single day this month. And Cobra Command HCC 788 organizes that. So that's really impressive. Let's see. It's usually in July. Okay. And Big A Dave says, Cobra! I'm so furiously editing, Andrew, that my heart is skipping beats. I am working so hard. Anyway, I think that's a lot of fun. So you could look up his channel, Hooded Cobra Commander 788, here on YouTube. That's a pretty good place to get notified about both the stuff that he does, and he tends to plug other people and stuff like that. He's got a website that lists everything. Really cool. So wanted to just pass that on because I love G.I. Joe personally. I'm pretty excited for the series to return this time under Skybound. So thank you for being here, even though it's late, Shin Matthias. Don't worry, you really didn't miss anything. Let me pull this up. There we go. Look at that. Look at that amazing thumbnail. Look at that clickbait at work, trying to shove in a lot of interesting stuff, but not too much. Don't want it too busy. Need people to be able to see it real quick. So anyway, there's the thumbnail. Let's go into this. I thought I'd start with this guy. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to change slightly how I organize this because I just realized, there. I don't want to cover it up. With my beautiful mug, I want you guys to be able to read this if you prefer to do that. I love Hellboy. I specifically really love Mike Mignola Hellboy as compared to some of the other stuff. But sometimes there's been exceptional related content. I would say that the Guillermo del Toro movies were very interesting. I would say that BPRD with art by Guy Davis was pretty fantastic. Well, here's something in that vein. There's going to be some Hellboy podcasts, but maybe that's not fair. There are audiobooks. Hold on, lagging. Audiobooks with a full cast, sounds, etc. It's going to be produced by Graphic Audio, which is an imprint of RB Media. They're the largest audiobook producers out there. They're going to make 3 original audiobooks. So this isn't adapting comics. It's original stories. They're going to be scripted by Christopher Golden, who has co-written with Mike Mignola various Hellboy stuff. Great comment from Andrew Jefferson. I want to highlight. Yeah, there's also like all sorts of like anthology type stories. Yeah, Richard Corbin actually did a fantastic Hellboy story, The Crooked Man, and that's actually being adapted currently into a new live action movie. So we shall see how that is. Available on cassette. Oh my God, that would, if I knew where I had a cassette player, I would get it on cassette. Sometimes I miss cassettes. I guess mostly nostalgia. I don't know who the cast is. I didn't see any news on that. All they did so far was list the 3 stories that they're doing, and they all have original Mike Mignola art to promote them. We've got Hellboy, A Plague of Wasps in July, so like I think the very end of this month. Last day of the month? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, in October, we get a Lobster Johnson story, The Proteus Club. Lobster Johnson, I mean, you either know or you don't, but Lobster Johnson is a pulp superhero from like more like the 1930s, I think, that Hellboy actually really likes his stories and stuff, but he actually exists in Hellboy's world. Anyway, in November, we get Hellboy and the BPRD. So get to see Abe Sapien and all them. The Goddess of Manhattan. Not sure what that is, but could be good. Could be good. We shall see. Is it the thing in comics that I'm most excited for? Absolutely. It's the thing I'm most excited for. F all the movies. Screw the top creators. All I want are audiobooks. All I want is audiobooks. I never heard that rumor, Toastal Chemist, that Bruce Campbell would play him in the canceled 3rd live action movie. I never heard that rumor, but I would, of course, have loved that. Roger the Homunculus. Roger was a great supporting character in the BPRD. You know what? Someday I'm going to have to talk about BPRD, but really more as an excuse to talk about Guy Davis artwork is really what would interest me the most. I think Guy Davis is underrated. I don't think he's popular enough for how talented he is. That's true. Yes, Big Finish makes an awful lot of cool audiobook type things. I know them because of Doctor Who, and I definitely have not seen all of Doctor Who. Bruce voiced him in a video game? Boy, I'd have to Google that. I do not know that, but if that's true, that's actually really cool. Oh, man. Yes, if you haven't seen it, Amazing Screw-On Head was both a really cool comic and a cool animation. Jamilin, pretty sure that this would be available on Audible. This would be available as an audiobook, so for purchase. It's not like a free podcast or something. So it pretty much uses every streaming service. Yeah. Another person from Uruguay is in the chat. Wow. That is pretty nice. And look, Big Gay Dave is taking advantage of these Twitch little images that you can post. Good. I'm glad those. All right. Tell you what, let's see what other news I have, because I've got more than that. There's no button here for me to just easily like go to the next page. I have to just scroll. But if I upgrade my computer and it can handle graphics better, I might be able to like just do full PowerPoint presentations with silly, like, you know, animations and transitions. Anyway, speaking of fully scripted sort of podcast things, Apple Podcasts and Warner Brothers is teaming up to make what they call a movie companion piece. It's called Flash Escape the Midnight Circus. Weird title. Sounds like 1980s Doctor Who. But yeah, I don't know whether that means that it's supposed to be in the movie's continuity or if they're simply releasing more Flash content at the same time that the movie is bombing in theaters everywhere nationwide. Max Greenfield is going to play Barry Allen, the Flash, in this, and I like Max Greenfield. He was on show I really enjoyed. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at names. I'm trying to remember. Jean, are you here? Is my sister here? What was that? Veronica Mars. Never mind, I thought of it. Max Greenfield was on Veronica Mars. Then he was, I think he got really recognized for being Schmidt on New Girl. But anyway, he's pretty entertaining guy. He's got a rapid fire delivery that could actually really suit the Flash well. They're saying that they're going to release 2 episodes on Monday, July 10th, and then it will be weekly. These are fairly small. They're going to be 12 to 20 minutes long. 12 to 20 minutes long. What's that? Did Neil Patrick Harris ever voice the Flash? Did he? Because you're saying bring back. I know who Michael Rosenbaum played the Flash on the old DC Justice League animated shows. Yeah, Veronica Mars was fantastic. Just a great mystery show. Great mystery show. You know, I never saw whatever the most recent season. They sort of brought it back. I got to see that someday. Anyway. Okay. Thank you for the info. He voiced Flash in Justice League New Frontier. Huh. Neil Patrick Harris did? I didn't know that. Oh, absolutely. Kristen Bell was so interesting and charming and just cool on Veronica Mars. I loved her. I'm glad to see that she's like had other things that have been a success too. Like The Good Place was a really good show. I know this isn't comic book stuff. Sorry, I'm starting to talk about various TV shows. This is not a TV show podcast or anything, so we got to move forward. This is enough of that bullshit. Let's see what else we got here. There is going to be a documentary series about DC. Now, it's probably going to be a fairly biased series, just to be clear. I mean, it's being produced for Max, which is all in the same parent company that owns DC. Calling it Superpowered. 3 parts to it, narrated by Rosario Dawson. Cool. They say that they have over 60 interviews, which is definitely quite a few. Both comic book creators and TV movie type people. And we've got an idea of what the 3 episodes are going to be about. They said that it'll grow roughly in chronological order. The episode 1 will talk about, the big 3, the creation of Batman, of Superman, of Wonder Woman. And then DC Comics struggles post World War II. That's the part that interests me the most, that I feel like hasn't been discussed as much. All of the mainstream sort of superhero folks stumbled for a while in the 50s until like the 60s came along. So that will be interesting. Episode 2 is going to talk about the Superman movies. I don't know how interesting that part is. The earliest black superheroes. Well, that'll take about 5 seconds for you, DC. They were very slow to include black superheroes. Characters like, say, Cyborg came in much, 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 much later than, say, Marvel with Black Panther and similar superheroes like that. Like, Marvel was way ahead of DC there. And then Vertigo. Well, I am curious to hear whatever they can share with me about the behind-the-scenes formation of Vertigo. Vertigo is amazing. Black Lightning was a really cool character, but he was definitely not like among the very first. So we'll see. Yeah, I've definitely read the original Devilman comics. They're really interesting. I can see how influential they were on things like, say, Berserk, even though it's done in a much more cartoony style, since in turn, like, Devilman was probably highly influenced by Osamu Tezuka. No, I don't think. What, Black Lightning? Was Black Lightning? I think it depends on how you define it. There was a black superhero that DC had called Tyroc, Tyroc. I think it was part of the Legion of Superheroes, and he was a superhero who was from an island where all the black people lived in the future. So actually not that wonderfully progressive at all. It's like he was cool and had cool powers and stuff like that. I think he had voice powers like Banshee of the X-Men. If I'm remembering right, it's been a long time since I thought about Tyrock, but I think that might have been their first black superhero. But again, they said that like all the black people lived in this one island. Like, not great. Hold on. I see a super chat. Everything stops when there's a super chat. Everybody just pause. Andrew Jefferson says, is the documentary going to talk about how the U.S. Army may have tried to assassinate the founder of DC Comics that one time? I don't know what that theory is, Andrew. It sounds fascinating, but I don't know anything about that. I got to look that up. Tyrock was part of the Legion of Superheroes in late 1970. Yeah. Tyrock was a member of the Legion of Superheroes. Okay, thanks for confirming that I'm remembering at least a bunch of this right. I wasn't planning on getting into my history, even though this was listed in the news. I should have like, yeah, like Wonder Woman's sister and stuff. But that stuff like all came later than you might think. Like Marvel, was formed in the 60s and they started having black supporting characters and black superheroes a lot sooner than DC. I'm trying to remember. I better not misspeak, but there's at least one high-level editor at DC that, if not racist, was definitely not progressive in terms of including any diversity and stuff. Like, was like allegedly like really against including black superheroes. Thanks, Bruce Hall, for looking this up. That's why it's great to have a chat when I'm doing this live. 1977, which cool. I think it's a good character too, but yeah, not the first. So when they say like early black superheroes, I'm like, early is all relative there. Anyway, episode 3 will be about milestone media, representation, and then future plans for DC. Interesting. I don't know how that would like shake out, but yeah. Could be interesting. I have Max, and this comes out end of July. Like what? Like basically less than 3 weeks. I'll definitely watch it. I hope that it gives some new information with all these interviews that they've collected. That's the one good thing, even if it's like sort of a biased documentary by like, like the source. At least they have access to some interesting people. So we'll see. Yeah, episode 3 probably is like all James Gunn or something. I don't know. Milestone produced some awesome comics in the 90s. Oh my God, I definitely. First of all, I'm pretty sure that he was actually called the Brown Bomber. And I don't think that actually got published. But yeah, a white guy who could turn into a super powered black guy by shouting a magic word. It was sort of like, yeah, the idea was for like essentially a Captain Marvel Shazam type situation where a somewhat racist white guy would turn into a super powered black man. Bad idea. I'm pretty sure it was the Brown Bomber, but maybe it was yeah, it was not a good idea. I'm pretty sure that did not get published, but that was the original idea for the character that ultimately instead became Black Lightning. Pretty sure. I made an episode about that one, Chemdog. Yeah. There was like about 3 issues where the Punisher literally became a black man by having like plastic surgery. No, did he? Did Dwayne McDuffie actually bring him into his Justice League run? Dwayne McDuffie was awesome. All right. What else have we got? Well, let's talk about the stuff that I put in the thumbnail here. It's pretty big news, although it's also early, so it's not like we know a whole lot. But the DCU, their movie division announced that they have hired the actors who will play Clark Kent, Superman, as well as Lois Lane. for their movie Superman Legacy, which will be written and directed by James Gunn, not coming out till 2025. So we still got a bit of a wait till we get that. So I don't know. They're really getting ahead of everything. We've got David Corenswet, and he's, I guess, 29 now. I saw him in the movie Pearl, which was a horror movie. I haven't seen him in much else. I heard that both of these actors were on the Netflix show House of Cards, but I didn't watch that show. And then we've got Rachel Brosnahan, who apparently was also on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's 32. A lot of people have told me that that's a good TV show, but I haven't watched that. Anyway, I mean, as far as like the look, like, yeah, like look, those people look like Clark Kent and Lois Lane to me. I don't think too many people could object to that, right? I don't think. I just looking at this guy, I really hope that they give him the S curl. That was one thing I really wanted Henry Cavill to have. He didn't have that sort of traditional Superman S curl like hairstyle. They didn't do that for him. Let's see. I'm getting corrected on my grammar. Black Phoenix says cast, not casted. I could be wrong. I think both can be accurate, but you're right. The cast would probably be the more acceptable. I think you can use casted. I think so, but maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, okay, maybe, I don't know. They're young, you know, like but not too young, but they're young. I don't know. I think that they look right. I'm not at all familiar with Rachel Brosnahan. I wish I was. I wish I were Black Phoenix. David Corenswet, the only thing I saw him in was the horror movie Pearl. That was the prequel to X. It stars Mia Goth in both of them. And he was a really interesting character in that. He was a projectionist. Maybe. I don't know. Does anybody know these actors? But you know what? Sometimes this makes sense for casting big roles. Sometimes you don't want the actor to overpower the role when it's like a really big name role. It's a trick that you have when you have roles like, say, James Bond or in this case Superman. You know, like really well known. A lot of times you want to cast somebody that, of course, is experienced, but is not necessarily a big name, because you want the most of the audience to really just not come in with too much in the way of preconceived notions. And it depends. It definitely depends on the character, but a lot of times that's what you want. So that makes sense. We'll see. Man, and Christopher Reeve, for me, he's still the gold standard for me. But I can understand how a lot of people, you know, are a lot younger, and to them say Henry Cavill is, and I get that. It'd be weird if Corenswet's parents were farm people. Yeah, that would be weird. Let's see. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for jumping in, even though I know it's pretty late over there. It's really kind of you. At this point, I'm keen on not a single casting detail released before trailer for anything superhero related ever. It would be nice to go in and get surprised a little bit more. I don't mind knowing about like some of the cast and crew. I don't even mind usually watching maybe a trailer, but I hate it when the trailer gives away too much. I'll give you my personal big example is Thor Ragnarok spoiled that the Hulk showed up. There was nothing in the movie itself when you're watching it to give an indication that all of a sudden Thor would come across the Hulk's path. I mean, he was out in space, you know? I'm sure that if you were able to watch that movie today and not have seen the trailer or anything, that would have been a great surprise moment. That really would have. But we all knew it going in because it was in the trailer. That was something I think should have actually been kept a secret. But that's just me. I do remember when Dougray Scott was originally cast as Wolverine, and then the filming on Mission Impossible 2 went late, so he wasn't able to do it, and we ended up with Hugh Jackman, and lucky us. Lucky us. Anyway, um let's go on. Let's move forward. Oh, on a related note, first of all, almost everybody on Twitter that's in comics seems to be moving over to Blue Sky. I'm still waiting on an invite to try that one out. But James Gunn posted this to his Blue Sky. No commentary or anything. Just an image of Golden Age Superman, Siegel and Schuster there. Now, we probably shouldn't read too much into something like that. He may just be giving respect to, the original Superman, and it could be nothing more than that. But of course, there are many comic book news websites that need content. So a lot of them are like speculating, does this mean that in the new movie he'll have like this sort of old-fashioned S symbol on his Superman suit? I don't think that's super likely, to be honest. Maybe for like an early scene, like as a sort of like homemade costume before he makes like a professional one, but who knows? Who knows? It is interesting though, isn't it? Sometimes to like go back and look at the original Superman and realize that, a lot of it was there. A lot of it was there, but not all of it. They hadn't like fine tuned everything on like the belt and the boots, and certainly not the S symbol, or exactly how the cape and like the neckline would work. It was a little inconsistent in the early days, so it's interesting to go back. Oh yeah, the animated Fleischer cartoons really took that design and made it look fantastic. So it's definitely possible. No, they don't use blue to color black hair anymore. That is true. Hello to Harvey. Thank you for watching on Twitch. I really appreciate it. Trying to build that channel up. But it was just something. There's no real news there, just sort of something that they posted. I thought this was like something that I came across, just to be clear, on Bleeding Cool, but it was just an entertaining little weird bit of news. So this is a little story that Stan wrote called The Fury of the Femizons. And the Femizons were characters that he created in a title called Savage Tales #1. It was a black and white anthology comic book magazine from Marvel. Came out in 1971. Was canceled after the first issue. And then brought back. But anyway, it was a future where women ruled the world and men were like kept as like slaves and breeding equipment only. I like this quote from the story. Everything depends upon destroying the temple of genetics, where the high priestesses guard the precious sperm supply. Way to go, Stan. Nailed it. Interestingly, in 1998, Marvel signed Stan to a new updated contract. And in that, as part of that contract, they gave him the rights to the Femizons, which, by the way, had actually been used in Marvel continuity. Writer Mark Grunwald did use Femizons in his Captain America run. So they were at one point part of 616 Marvel continuity, but at this point, Marvel doesn't own them. They let Stan have the rights to that in 98. He assigned them to Stanley Entertainment, and then a year before he died, those rights were bought by Stanley Holdings. God love you if you ever try to understand all the different companies that Stan Lee had going and worked for towards the end of his life. There was POW Entertainment, Stanley Holdings, Stanley Entertainment, all these different companies. And I swear to God, I think that they were all just trying to screw him out of like rights and money and stuff. But anyway. So Stanley Holdings is the company that owns about 100 characters that Stan Lee created not Marvel characters aside from this one, although this one is in part of that 100 characters. And they called it the Omniverse Collection, and it's gone up for sale. As to like the actual value there's value to Stan Lee's name. I don't like, I've seen some of these characters that he created. I wouldn't say that any of them are really that groundbreaking. You could do something interesting with them, but you could probably just make your own knockoff version and you'd have just as much name recognition. You know, aside from the Stan Lee name, the characters themselves don't have any real name recognition. So I don't think, I don't know what they're trying to sell it for. I really don't. Am I going to buy the characters? I'll buy them for $5. That's my offer. That's my bid. That's my bid. The Femizons would have hated giant-sized Man-Thing, or would they? Or would they? I don't know. Let's see Disney make the Femizons into a 6-part miniseries. Well, they can't. They don't have the rights unless they want to buy the Omniverse collection from Stan Lee Holdings. So, oh yeah. That is good. That is a good sketch. I've been watching some Key and Peele sketches on YouTube again. They were funny guys. They really made a lot of great sketches. They really did. I don't know about Thundra. I don't know that character, whether she's part of the Femizons, but I don't think that they can do anything with the Femizons or Femizonia anymore. No, I don't think that they own that. I bid 50 pairs of sweat socks. The only thing, JD, is you didn't explain whether those are new or used sweat socks. So we really need to gauge the value of that bid. If they're new, I think that that's a fair offer. If we are talking 50 used or, God forbid, mismatched sweat socks, I don't think that that's a fair offer. That's my stance. That's my stance. Thundra was a Roy Thomas character. I don't know then. Let's see. Semrix asks, good show so far. Honestly, no. It's a great show so far. Thank you, folks. Oh, Thundra was from the Femizon timeline. Then probably Marvel doesn't. Well, they could have the rights to it and just not mention Femizonia. I don't know. Yeah, I remember Thundra now. Okay. So they probably do have the rights, I would guess. They probably do have the rights to Thundra, and they probably just would say she's from something that's named similarly, and yeah. I would think. You'll settle for great? I'm sorry. Next time I'll make a spectacular live show. Next time, okay? That is an interesting question, Makoto. What happened to the Jack Kirby characters that he created for Topps? I don't know. Maybe the Jack Kirby estate got those rights. Maybe whoever owns Topps has those rights. I really have no idea, but that is an interesting question. I would say that would probably be more valuable than the things Stan Lee created, only because even if you took away Jack Kirby's name and you didn't recognize the characters, you'd recognize his designs. I would say that. Yeah, if they use, I bet Marvel does have the rights to Thunder if I had to bet, and yeah, I bet that they would just say like she's from the female nation or something like that. I'm sure that they didn't give those rights to like Roy or anything like that. I don't know if they had an original Star Trek episode of like all women, but it does seem like a standard 50s pulp sci-fi trope, doesn't it? The all female. I mean, in a way, that's like Wonder Woman's idea too, but they say that that's like on an island within the real world. So I don't know. Black Phoenix says, all the Topps Kirby characters belong to Kirby's estate. Alex Ross licensed their use a few years ago. Hey, thanks. That's actually really interesting. That makes sense. And that's sort of what one of my guesses. So, yeah. The episode Spock's Brain did it. Ooh, that's one of the worst that they did. By the way, as long as we're mentioning it, I keep talking about TV this episode, so maybe I need to do a spin-off show about that. But my favorite thing that I'm watching these days, really one of very, very few things that I'm watching, if I'm honest, I love Star Trek Strange New World. Season 2 has been 3 fantastic episodes so far. I really, really love it. If you haven't watched Star Trek before, it's a really easy jumping on point because they don't really do too much serialization. It's each episode is each episode, not dense in continuity, but really well written characters and interesting sci-fi and futuristic plots that have like a moral quandary to them. And overall, it's a fairly positive show. So I actually really, really like it. I really like it. More news, please. You got it. Didn't see this one coming, although maybe I should have. A new publisher has taken over the Valiant comic characters. Just to be clear, if you've been keeping up with Valiant at all, you know that right now they're only publishing one title a month. That's all they can do. It's a pretty lean workforce. They just release one book a month, but they have inked a deal they announced this week with a group called Alien Books to take over publishing their characters. And they say in things like comics, manga, webtoons, graphic novels, all that good stuff. So yeah, there's basically a new publisher. I'm not sure if it's a licensing deal, if Alien Books bought it. They're really not very clear there. In the way, I don't totally care. Thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the kind words. And so anyway, yes, Bloodshot did get a movie starring Mr.
I'm here for family. This is Vin Diesel.
I just gave myself esophageal cancer with that. Honestly, I didn't think the movie was too bad. I feel like I'm in a minority saying that. I think it was a decent action movie that probably would have done fairly well if it didn't have the very bad luck of honestly being the movie that came out the week before theaters nationwide shut down because of the pandemic. So it sincerely had like next to no time in the theaters, but I didn't think it was too bad. I went in not expecting much. Maybe that helped. I liked it. I sincerely did. I don't know what else to say. So what are they going to be doing? Well, first of all, Exo Manowar Unconquered will continue. That's the one that they've been doing monthly lately. Written by Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad, art by Liam Sharp. Cool. Good creative team, in my opinion. Good character. And then Ninjak Super Killers was originally supposed to come out back in like February, I think, or something, but they got hung up with only being able to put out one book a month. Alien says that Ninjak Super Killers is going to launch this fall and plans to, create a lot more because they do have a huge shared universe, just to be clear. Marvel and DC are definitely the biggest shared universe, but after that, Valiant is the next biggest shared universe for superheroes. Jason David Frank did a better job as Bloodshot. Bloodshoot. I saw that. It was kind of fun. I do think that, Vin Diesel is capable of a bit more of a realistic, believable performance. But you know what? We can disagree on that. Who cares? Yeah, I think that they can really only afford to sort of have the structure to publish one book a month. Yeah. So I think that Valiant has some cool characters. I've gone back and forth with like reading bits of it. I don't know that they've ever had a long run where like everything was good. They've had some highlights over the years. They definitely have. I think they've got some good characters. They've had some great people work for them. There are some good runs in there. So, fingers crossed that it could work well. I would imagine the Bloodshot movie is on Amazon Prime. I don't think it's anywhere else. Yeah. But yeah, there was like a little sort of like web series budgeted Valiant episode that starred, geez, I forget the actor's name, but he played Deadshot on the Arrow TV show. He was Ninjak. He was the main character, and he did go up briefly against Bloodshot, played by the Green Power Ranger himself. So let's see. Oh, I never read that run. But Time Walker is an interesting character, and I could see how you could do something like that. My friend Rafer Roberts had a really good, pretty lengthy run on Archer and Armstrong. I think he did a good job on that. Anyway, do you know what? Solar Man of the Atom was never quite my favorite because he's so godlike. He always felt like he was just a little too distant to relate to. I didn't love him as a main character. Manu Bennett played Deathstroke. Not, I'm talking about the guy that played Deadshot. Anyway, we've talked before about this new publisher called Distillery, and their whole deal is that they are publishing print editions of their comics, also for a limited time, web editions. And once you get past like the couple weeks that they have it on sale as a web edition, they won't like sell it again online. So they've got some sort of, I guess, digital rights management software to sort of track that stuff. And they say that they're not looking to get into like the NFT game, but like, you know, they are trying to essentially create a digital comic that also has scarcity that you could buy and trade. I don't love that part of it, but they did get together a pretty astonishing group of creators. So we've got their first book is an anthology that comes out very soon. It's going to be called The Devil's Cut, and it will have 8 stories, which we found out this week, like the names and the creative groups. We've got Spectrograph by James Tynion IV, Christian Ward, Aditya Bidikar, I'm guessing on that name, sorry. Shepherd by Mark Bernardine, Ariella Christentina, Lee Loffridge, Bernardino Bryce, Bernardo Bryce. Jesus, I'm just stumbling over names. Sorry. We've got 8 Rules to Make It Out in One Piece by Elsa Charretier, PK Colinet, Nick Filardi, and Clayton Cowles. We've got A Blessed Day by Mirka Andolfo, Fabio Emilia Arancia Studio, and Steve Orlando. The Stowaway by Jock. I'm definitely interested in that. Deleted Scene number 2 by Brian Azzarello, Eduardo Riso, and Jared K. Fletcher. That's probably the one that I'm most looking forward to. I do like the Azzarello-Risso combination. I'm just a big fan of Eduardo Risso more than anything else. He's just a great artist. Argentine artist, by the way. White Boat by Scott Snyder, Francesco Francavilla. They did a great book together called Night of the Ghoul. Boy, was it good. And World Design and Tyler Jennis. What Blighted Flame Burns in Thee by Becky Cloonan, Tula Latte, great artist, and Richard Starkings. Really impressive group of creators is all I want to say. And then this over here is their new mascot, Mominu, who is a red panda cub. And I guess they will have toys and use Mominu throughout their various branding and stuff. I do love red pandas, so darn it. No, this is not another 100 Bullets chapter because these are all creator-owned books. 100 Bullets, I'm pretty sure, is owned by DC/Vertigo. Pretty sure. Tynion is all over the place. It really shows how writers in comics have the capability to earn a lot more money than artists sometimes because they can do so many books in a month compared to an artist, which also means, in my opinion, artists aren't paid enough in comics, but that's just my 2 cents there. Let's see. Mortaka says, it's always been kind of worrying to me that full digital comics like Webtoon, years of media, could potentially be permanently lost if something goes wrong with the website or if they shut down. Hopefully the creators are keeping an archive themselves as well, just in case. Hopefully. It's a weird idea to put number 2 in the title of your book, easily confusing. True, but I think that they're counting on the fact that it's an anthology. So yeah, like they're the only ones doing that. I haven't seen Turning Red. I haven't seen that one. I should. It's I've got Disney Plus, so someday I'll get around to it. No, actually, I have not read their series Moonshine, but thanks for the heads up. Thanks for the heads up. Let's see. Unless you're Dan Morrow, who puts out almost 3 books a month, it feels like that. But I think some of that, if you actually look, he's had little breaks and he's like just had some overlap. I'm pretty sure he cannot draw 3 a month. No, I might have read Dark Knight by Paul Dini and Eduardo Risso, but I don't think so. Yeah. Personally, I will pick up the hard copy of Distillery's book Devil's Cut. That's what I prefer most of the time. I don't have a lot of interest in getting into a digital comic that has scarcity or something. I don't think I would ever try to get something like that secondary market. We'll see. The Houston Comic-Con vanishes. That's my oh. The H-Town Comic-Con was scheduled, as you can see in this ad that they had, for June 23rd through 25th at Houston's NRG Center. Fair enough, right? Well, on June 6th, so basically just over 2 weeks before the convention itself, not much time ahead of time, they posted to their Facebook page that it would be moved to October. Not much time for people to reschedule. Ticket sales continued with no notice on the website where you purchase tickets about the date being changed. The tickets themselves, I don't think reflected the change. And so some folks showed up to the NRG Center this past weekend, to find there's no Comic-Con. There were people in cosplay, people that were like from out of town and stuff. Not great organization there. The Houston Chronicle was where I read this, and they spoke to some of the convention goers who said that they have not been able to reach any convention organizers for a refund. Does anybody live in that area? And like, did they know anything else about this? I'm curious. Not great. Wow. Good morning in India. Thank you so much, AL. We're getting people from all over right now. Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I love any zoo that has a red panda. I kind of make a point of seeing them because they're just so adorable. Anyway, so yeah, is pretty weird goings on there. The Houston Chronicle article that interviewed some of the people that were showing up and were confused did mention that the organizers of this did another convention that I guess had sort of a similar problem. So, it's so tricky with conventions. You want to support them at the beginning if they're in your area because, hey, maybe they're bringing in a good guest and you want it to continue. But you can run into situations where you're not sure if they're actually going to be able to fulfill what they're promising. Just crazy. Can you imagine? Like, there was a lady that came with her 2 daughters in cosplay, and they were like devastated to realize and kind of embarrassed. They were just like walking around in like the lobby of the convention center, realizing that there was no comic convention, so no one else was dressed up or anything. Oh, what's this? Oh, here's a story. I was once hired to work at a festival that didn't actually exist. Still have no idea what was happening there. Got in touch with the council in that area, and that had no record. Beautiful. Used to live in Houston. I attended several comic paloozas, but I've never even heard of ComicCon. Yeah, I've heard of Comic Palooza. I think that they've been going for several years. This was a newer one. Yeah. Not a good job of notifying people when you have to sort of progressively or proactively is the word I meant to use. Proactively check their Facebook page for whether the convention's actually happening. This one is interesting. I think that I suspect we're going to have some different opinions, a bunch of us, over this piece of news. I saw that there were protests in Indonesia over a comic, so that's always going to pique my interest. Specifically, there were dozens of protesters, so we're not talking hundreds or thousands, but dozens of protesters were gathered in front of the Malaysian embassy in Indonesia. The group is a non-government group called, and I don't know how to pronounce anything in Indonesian or whatever. What would their language be actually? Is it Indonesian? Jeez, I just realized that maybe I don't know even what the name of the language is. But the name of the group is Karong Rakyat. Specifically, they were demanding that the government in Indonesia ban sales of a comic book in Indonesian bookstores. A comic book by Chiming Bowie. You might know him. Chiming Bowie has been doing web comics for a long time on Instagram. Born in Singapore, so obviously, like, basically, he's got Malaysian history, family, culture, and then does live in the U.S. And so this is specifically is the comic strip that people are objecting to. I don't know how well you can. He's tall, skinny, and a few years older than me. One time, my dad told me to go in the backyard with him. Come see monkey, he said. When I got to the backyard, I didn't see any monkeys. It was just our maid. Then my dad said, you should see her climb this coconut tree. She's very fast. And she was. It was insane. It was effortless for her. She looked like she just defied gravity and walked up the tree. I couldn't even climb trees with branches. I saw how impressed my dad was. I don't think I'd ever seen him that impressed, and I really wanted to impress him too. So I secretly went back to the coconut tree in the evening to try climbing. I only got as high as I could jump. So kind of a funny little story, but I guess what they're objecting to is how Indonesian maids are being treated. And there is, I guess, as I looked into this, an ugly history there to how Malaysian people tend to treat their Indonesian maids. And specifically, they're sort of like, the dad is calling her a monkey. That's not great. I don't think it was meant to be offensive. If I gave the benefit of the doubt, I think it's because she just happened to be really good at climbing the tree. And the joke is more on the author because he wanted to be able to climb like that and just couldn't. He just completely failed. I don't know. I'm obviously like reading this and I'm not like laughing out loud. I don't know if you are. Is this worthy of a ban? Probably not, but I can understand how it would annoy Indonesian people. Absolutely. So yeah, I thought that a lot of people might have different opinions because, we're not using a racist term, but we're definitely dehumanizing a whole people. I don't know. It probably is not going to go anywhere, but while Bowie does online comics and lives in the US, I know that like book-wise, his publisher is trying to break more into the Malaysian market. His comics are, yes, when you say it seems like him reminiscing, that's mostly what his comics are. He makes comics that are like autobiographical. I wouldn't say like an actual joke. It's not like a comic strip like, I don't know, Garfield or Ziggy or anything like that. He tells awkward and honest stories about his childhood. So this was literally something that happened to him, and he shared that. And people did not, the Indonesian people do not like how it is denigrating their maid. Anyway. Thought I'd share it. It's not the same as, Marvel and DC comics, but it is news. This coffee's good. Let's see. I'm late to the stream. That's always okay. Did I miss any Paste Pot Pete news? No Paste Pot Pete news this week that I can share. Am I, I think we did learn some Fantastic Four news. I guess Adam Driver and Margot Robbie both withdrew from that movie. At one point, they were in discussion to star in that movie. And Paste Pot Pete, obviously, will be the big enemy. So that'll be my MCU debut, me versus the Fantastic Four. But yeah, so those actors got brought out. You're watching Garfield on TV. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that, Joe. You have my sincerest sympathy. I know. I keep all the big comings and goings on the Paste Pop Pete news to myself. Thank you, Samuel. Let's see. Skybound is celebrating its anniversary this year. That includes, of course, things like the G.I. Joe and Transformers and this, which is that they're going to launch a bunch of tabletop games based on Walking Dead and Invincible. So the announcement this week was Skybound announced it renewed its partnership with Mantic Games. They had made some miniature Walking Dead games. I haven't played them, so I can't speak to it, but they released two, I think, Walking Dead games that are miniatures. These for Walking Dead and Invincible, they're both dice and card games. So they're both set to launch, the winter timeframe of this year, although they will have pre-sales of this stuff at both San Diego Comic-Con this month and Gen Con next month. So for anybody that's really into dice and card games, I'm sure that that would be fun. Just Skybound getting into different diversifying its interests, right? Yes, Paste Pot Pete and Trapster are the same person, but, in my opinion, Paste Pot Pete is a better name, in my opinion. I guess I thought that Nicolas Cage was okay as a quick gag in the Flash movie. I didn't love how the effects looked, but I was more okay with that than them using George Reeves and Christopher Reeve. I didn't like that. Anybody out there play tabletop games? Is this something that any of you out there are thinking of picking up? Yeah, it's weird that they included him, but he was cast to be in the movie. It would have been directed by, Tim Burton. Screenplay at one point by Kevin Smith. They got as far as costume fittings and stuff before it fell apart. So I think a lot of people just know about it because Kevin Smith talks about it in his sort of live Q&A stuff. So yeah. Let's see. I want to buy. I don't have that many friends that live close by. That could be the problem. That could be that would be a problem for me too. Ran tabletop RPGs for 20 years. Even ran a superhero team, pen and paper, called Phoenix. If I had more time to just be nothing but a full-time YouTuber, I would love to just play on either a superhero or Ninja Turtles, some sort of RPG like that. I don't have the skills to run it myself, but I think that would be a pretty fun show. I'm not insinuating that you're a gamer. I'm flat out calling you a gamer. Let's see. There have been a few big IPs jumping into tabletop games lately. Apex Legends, Skyrim, Dark Souls. Absolutely. I mean, you're even seeing stuff like, I guess, those Magic the Gathering. They're co-branding with things like Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So, yeah. I can understand that. Some tabletop games are pricey. I don't think that they necessarily sell tons of units, so that like sort of accounts for that. But I would have to imagine that a dice and card game wouldn't be too much. I don't know. So we'll move on. As long as we're talking Skybound, we will mention that they revealed by the end of this week the full Decepticon lineup for the upcoming Daniel Warren Johnson written and drawn Transformers comic. So last week we learned that the Autobot team would be Optimus Prime, RC, Ratchet, Wheeljack, and Cliffjumper. No Bumblebee, interestingly. And then this week we learned that the Decepticon team is Starscream, Skywarp, Soundwave, Laserbeak, and Rumble. Interestingly, no Megatron, at least not yet. Skybound did say that other characters will eventually appear, but these are going to be the teams initially. And I do like that they're starting with a smaller group so that you've sort of got a core cast that you can get to know, play with some team dynamics. No Megatron right away. I thought that was interesting. It should, who knows where he is. No, not initially. No Thundercracker, and also doesn't show, I don't know, Buzzsaw, Frenzy, Ravage, other cassettes. But that's okay. I'm okay with them starting small and then rolling in others because there are so many Transformers. I mean, you could have gone bonkers, and that would really only appeal to hardcore existing fans. If you want to try to get some new readers, you need to start a little more small, a little more modest. I really believe that. Here is their description of this comic book, okay? Just so you know. Optimus Prime was supposed to have led the Autobots to victory. Instead, the fate of Cybertron is unknown, and his allies have crash-landed far from home, alongside their enemies, the Decepticons. As these titanic forces renew their war on Earth, one thing is immediately clear: the planet will never be the same. New alliances are struck, battle lines are redrawn, and humanity's only hope for survival is Optimus Prime. Of course, we also know that Jetfire is part of this because we saw him appear in Void Rivals. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I like these. I like these characters quite a bit that they chose. I think that makes sense. Yeah, let's see how Starscream does. Probably not great. No Twin Twist. Oh, I didn't realize that Comic Pop interviewed Daniel Warren Johnson again. That's cool. There was a brief mention of Megatron, but it was moved past very quickly. Yeah, I mean, I saw Larry Hama, who's writing G.I. Joe for Skybound. I saw him last week at a convention, and the interviewer asked him to tell us what to expect with this run. He's like, "Well, I can't. I've got an NDA." And he was like, "Well, you can say it here. Like, we're just in this small town. It won't go beyond here." And he was like, "No, I can't. I signed an NDA." It was really awkward. But we'll learn soon enough. Let's see. I declare myself the new leader. Oh, my goodness. I declare myself. No, I did it better the first time. Woof, that's hard. Interview just a few days ago. I love Daniel Warren Johnson. I'd interview him every week if I could. Penguin Random House is getting into the manga game. Everybody is. So Penguin Random House and Del Rey UK announced the formation of a new publishing imprint that they are calling Inklore. It's going to be designed to publish manga, manhwa, webtoons. And specifically, they described it as a pop comics imprint. That's a weird phrase, but whatever. A pop comics imprint celebrating the most popular fan-driven tropes, ding, 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 in visual storytelling, with a focus on digital to print licensed publishing in the romance, fantasy, science fiction, horror, and slice of life genres. So they're mostly taking existing properties and either importing them and translating them or taking them from like online and giving them print edition type stuff. This was one example that some people may be familiar with. They're going to be releasing a print version of My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999, which is, I believe, an anime on Crunchyroll. That comic book is about this girl is like dumped by a boyfriend who I think also meets like his new girlfriend online, and she joins a gaming clan, and I think she gets a crush on this guy who's like anyway, they're all serious gamers. They're all serious gamers. So we shall see. And they're going to have, basically like boys love stories and isekai, fantasy stuff. So yeah, we shall see. The first English voice for Starscream was the original voice for Mo Sislak and Mr. Burns in the first season of The Simpsons. Well, it was Chris Latta that did Starscream and Cobra Commander famously. I don't believe he ever voiced any characters on The Simpsons. I'm pretty sure Mo and Mr. Burns were oh geez, I can't remember the actors' names now. It's been too long since I looked at this stuff. I don't think that's right. I don't mean to be difficult, Wally. Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's something I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't know. Who am I thinking of? Harry who does Mr. Burns? And then Mo is that guy that was in the American Godzilla from '98 and Mad About You. Harry Shearer and Hank Azaria. Yeah. Thank you, folks. Lotta was the OG Mr. Burns and Mo? Oh my God. Boy, that shows you something. I mean, Simpsons is still going today. And I used to literally watch that show before it was even its own show. I used to watch that on the Tracy Ullman show when they were like sketches. So I watched the Simpsons right from the beginning for many, many years. And I totally don't remember that now. No kidding. Wow. I did not remember that. So did they recast that because Chris Latta died? I wonder, because he did pass away somewhere around that time. I don't remember. What was he? Oh, he could have been the voice on the Tracy Ullman show, maybe. Yeah, maybe. He was the original voice, but he was an a-hole on the set, so he was replaced by Azaria Shearer, and his voice wasn't used in the show. Oh, okay. Huh. From what I've heard, Chris Latta, while he was super talented and also really funny, did a lot of stand-up and stuff, he had substance abuse problems, and it made him kind of difficult to work with, I guess, unfortunately. And that is what caused, unfortunately, his early demise. But if you think of like the voices from Transformers and G.I. Joe, I would bet a lot of people would remember Starscream and Cobra Commander before even like other notable voices, like, Casey Kasem as Cliff Jumper, or Scatman Crothers as Jazz. A lot of us think of Peter What's-His-Nuts as Optimus Prime, but that's because, of course, he's gotten to continue to do them in the movies. Peter Cullen. A lot of respect, by the way, for the voice of like Megatron and Soundwave. I'm so bad at names, guys. But that guy's a great voice actor. Does like Scooby-Doo's voice and stuff. Great actor. Anyway, yeah. Chris Latta was in Next Gen as a Klingon. I remember he was also part of Al Bundy's No Ma'am group on Married with Children. So he did do some live action stuff too. Frank Welker. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, Frank Welker. Frank Welker, I think he's probably done more voices than just about anybody else. Frank Welker's awesome, man. If you need an animal voice, they still go to him. I am a huge fan of Bone. I've made an episode on Comic Tropes about it. I bet a lot of you have read Bone. It's fantastic. And you can get like the entire collected edition. You can get recolored editions. Bone is pretty easy to get a hold of, fortunately. It's kept in print by Scholastic. Uh, great comic. Sincerely, I think it's fantastic. But not everybody has seen or even knows that Jeff Smith had sort of a proto version of Bone called Thorn, Tales from the Lantern, which featured versions of those characters like Thorn and Phone Bone and stuff. And he did that for his college newspaper at Ohio State University. Those strips have never been collected until I guess now, because Smith tweeted that that's going to change soon. So I guess we can look forward to some reprints and get to see this early version of Bone. His artwork was still evolving, I think. It's not quite as crisp as what we get when we get to Bone, but there are story ideas and character ideas there from the beginning, and it's certainly good art. I think personally, I'm really excited about it. Uh, any Bone from Jeff Smith himself, I will take. It's not that I really want it to continue, but I would love to see, say, this proto version. If he ever wants to do things like, say, just like a one-off little story in an anthology, I'm up for that. So yeah, he had developed those characters earlier. I think I mentioned that in my video about Bone, but it's been a long time since I made it, so I never remember what I make after I finish it. Yeah, Netflix at one point was going to do an animated version of it, and they did cancel it, which it sucks. I don't always need an adaptation of a comic, but some comics would be well suited for certain forms of adaptation. And I think that like Bone could make an excellent animated show. It could be excellent. Next, we need a collection of his childhood Bone strips. And I want to go back even further to just see, like what he was doing as an embryo. That one feels like animation already. Exactly. Like the designs are there. The story is good. He released that. I've got Tukey. I got it he had a Kickstarter for 2 editions. It's good. It's good. He started drawing the bones as a little kid. I mean, they're kind of like Smurfs. But let's see. They did a video going on over an out of print Thorn collection they found in a random comic shop for cheap. Yeah, well, it might have been this that I am using the image for. It was probably that because anyway, yeah. But I don't know if that was an official version or not. I really don't know. Might have been. I would like to see it though, so I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited too. Got some more news. What do you think of my choice of image for this? I don't know how you visually represent the fact that Comic Book Resources just had another 3 editors leave. So at the end of May, not that long ago, there were 3 of the top editors at CBR were laid off, including longtime editor Stevan Girding. And by the way, back when that happened, the speculation by people that used to work for CBR was that the company that owns CBR, Valiant, was pushing them to write more articles, their writers to produce more articles and pay them a little bit less per article, and that possibly these 3 top editors stood up to them and pushed back and said, no, I don't think that that's fair. That's the rumor anyway. Well, Popverse noted that there are social media posts from 3 more editors indicating that they left. All of them, by the way, thanked Stevan Girding. So obviously a lot of people respected him. We're talking about news editor Brandon Schroer, Weekend Comics news editor Sean Gribben, and remote news editor Narayan Liu. Gribben noted that he wrote 1,200 articles in the 2 years he worked at CBR. That sounds like overwork to me, but what do I know? I I've never done this before, so I don't know for sure. Schroer tweeted, "There are a million stories that could be told about the past month, and V redacted." I'm assuming that means Valnet, seemingly referring to Valnet, the parent company of CBR. So, CBR does produce some good content, but obviously they're also pushed to produce just a lot of stuff for SEO. They just are, because if you scroll through, whenever there's a movie or something like that, they'll have like about 2 or 3 articles that kind of say the same thing, slightly rejiggered. Clearly that's all for SEO. Anyway, that's enough for a whole popsicle. I mispronounced it. See Yabber. I don't know what I mispronounced. Sorry. So, no, I wasn't trying to say that 3 editors died. I was saying that like CBR looks, when you've got this many editors leaving, like 6 in basically 2 months, that looks like a sinking ship. That's what I was alluding to. I was not trying to say that anybody died. Oh my God, I definitely did not mean anything that dark. Just to be clear. Not too many editors at CBR right now, so I can only imagine the workload that they have in front of them. I don't know. There's plenty that I like reading at CBR, but it definitely makes me wonder like how they can sort of keep going at their sort of current pace and everything with so many senior editors leaving. Let's see. CBR articles aren't good aside from the ones Sal from Comic Pop wrote. No, they have a few. They have a few writers that I think do a good job. But yeah, do people read CBR for anything other than Legends Revealed? Well, that is one of the better pieces of content they have. I agree with you there. Yeah, Brian Cronin, exactly. I think he reveals a lot of interesting comic book history. Hopefully they don't push him to produce 1,200 articles in a year or something. But it does make me like question if I feel like they're in a rebuilding period at best, right? And at worst, they may have pushed people to do more than they physically could, and everything's just going to crash, and they're going to decide that CBR isn't worth keeping around. I don't know. I think CBR is a good way to at least get certain headlines on news articles. I do think that there are better sources for investigative journalism for comics. I think that, for instance, Comics Beat is a more journalistic site. But I'm not saying anything bad about the people that actually work for CBR. I think that they're pushed really hard to just produce a lot of articles. The articles are very rarely very long. They're pretty short for the most part. But whatever. They used to host Robot 6. Oh, I don't quite remember that. Bleeding Cool. I mean, Bleeding Cool it is not bad in terms of getting interesting scoops. I definitely learn a lot of the more gossipy stuff from Bleeding Cool. They've got this weird thing where a lot of their articles for the comic section are really just posting about auctions. So I guess they must make some money off of that, because there's always a bunch of articles about like blah, blah, blah comic up for auction. And I'm like, that's so weird. But it's Rich Johnston and his people definitely get scoops. They get they get news about things before other places do. It's a little more gossipy, but honestly, I like a mix of that in my comic book news. So, yeah, I enjoy that website. In fact, this was something that I saw on Bleeding Cool, just to be clear. That's where I'm sharing this from. So DC has their upcoming event called Night Terrors, if you didn't know. And supposedly there's some problems with their variant neon covers. So several Night Terror covers are coming with what DC is calling neon inks. Looks to me more like it was designed to be blacklight, but they were called neon inks, and they cost $2 more than they would otherwise. So that's quite a bit. That's a big bump. But according to Bleeding Cool, they are, so this is like third hand, but they said that like some people, they heard that some people got early copies and that it's brightly colored, but that they wouldn't call it neon ink. It's not. It doesn't have that sort of foily glow. It wouldn't like really shine in blacklight in these people's opinion. So, it, without seeing it, I can't know. But I'll tell you this: like I get variant covers very rarely, and I need to know exactly what it is. Like, I might get a variant cover if it's like one of my favorite artists. I might be willing to pay a couple bucks more, but I'm not going to usually pay a couple bucks more for just like foil or glow in the dark or something like that. If I have a choice between that and like a regular edition. So this one sounds like it would not be worth my $2 personally. From what I'm hearing. Like and I probably wasn't going to be inclined to get it anyway, though, just to be clear. By the way, sort of related because it's about night terrors. DC released a checklist of all the comics that will be, about and having crossover issues in the Night Terrors event. That goes across July and August. 46 comics, folks. 46. What? 46 comics. And I feel like come September, are we going to really have any lasting impacts from this? I feel like if we were going to have lasting impacts, it would have been something that would have had to have been seeded story-wise for several months before we got to the event. I don't know. That's just a lot of issues. And to be clear, I'm talking mostly tie-in issues, like Shazam #4 or whatever it might be has this going on, but that is a lot. I mean, yeah, they better not have like an ongoing story across those that you need to read a bunch of them or all of them to make money. Or make money? I meant like make sense. Jesus. I'm obviously thinking about how much it would cost to buy all of those. Think about that. 46, and let's just one or two of these are going to be like, cost more, but like 46, and we say that they're all $4 each. Let's do some quick math in Chris's head. Am I right that it would be like almost $190? Anyway, I thought that's not. I think I've got that right. I didn't catch that. Bleeding Cool was saying the event is because they want new variants to make toys and figures off of. Maybe. I definitely see a lot more toys and figures for DC out there these days. I think a lot of people that get things like Marvel Legends or DC Multiverse figures and stuff tend to get a lot of them, not just one or two. I think a lot of people do because I at least that's my experience. I know a couple friends that get not everyone, but a lot of them. I don't have, I don't think any like of those McFarlane DC figures for Marvel. I have Death Dealer. I did get the Death Dealer figure just because it was the Death Dealer from the Shang-Chi movie, because the actor who played that, I really love his YouTube channel. So I got that figure. Yeah, well, certainly would be a better value, I'm sure, to get an Omni. I liked the idea of seeing like some of these characters' nightmares. I did like that idea, but that's a lot. That's a lot. Maybe I'll get one or two. We'll see. Maybe just to like, give you an overview next week or something, whenever it comes out. By the way, I know I haven't been doing like live drawing as much as I used to when I started this. My sister said she really liked that part, and so I will try to do that soon. Certainly, as soon as I revise this whole streaming setup, I will try to do more drawing while I go over the news and stuff like that. I was thinking that if I did the news and I was sort of looking at the camera a little bit more as compared to looking down and like at my drawing and just like glancing up, that maybe it would be more engaging, but I don't know if it's more interesting to watch me draw. I don't know. but my sister says it was, and I'm giving some serious thought to it. No, Death Dealer was like the ninja guy. You're thinking of Razor Fist. Razor Fist was the arm guy. I should draw the news. I think the news should be what I draw, personally. I've got an okay setup for it all, but I do tend to like have to look down a lot to pay attention to what I'm doing. So it's hard to like draw, look at you guys, and read the news. And I was feeling like I was always looking down. But I liked doing that stuff. So maybe I'll sort of like break it up and do every once in a while, do a little bit of an art stream and still do the news stuff this way. We'll see. Got some more news. Marvel's bringing back Yelena Belova. They haven't really been using her too much, but she has been in comics since 1998. So 25 years is not nothing. That's not a new character per se. And they're going to call the series White Widow. Well, that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Yelena Belova was originally just another Black Widow. But of course, in the movie, that's what people kind of know her from, I think. I think Florence Pugh made a really interesting character. I want to see more of her personally. I really liked her sarcasm. And she was wearing a white outfit. So I think sort of revising it a little and calling her White Widow is not a bad idea, even though there's no such thing as a White Widow, but we've got a Black Widow. The writer for this will be Sarah Gailey, and they're going to be working alongside artist Alessandro Miracolo. Not super familiar with Alessandro's work. They did get David Marquez to do the covers. This is a mini series coming out in November. Their little summary that Marvel released says super spy, rogue agent, shadow of the Black Widow. Yelena Belova has been many things, but striking out as a hero in her own path. Who will she become? Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to introduce this character as a new hero after I think that they got a better than expected response. I think that she was probably the best part of the Black Widow movie, wouldn't you say? I think she was. I loved it when she showed up on Hawkeye too. She's a good actress. She is. So I liked Yelena Belova in the movie. If they want to sort of like rejigger the character to be a little closer to that and be sort of a reluctant or slightly dark hero, I think that's good. Yeah, well, tame I don't want. I don't want tame. So I hope that they're able to keep an edge, but we'll see. There's got to be a balance. She is knocking those AIM guys down easily. You're right. And then Arsnoff comes in with it's a nice day for a White Widow. That was my flawless impression of Billy Idol. It's a nice day for a White Widow. What a terrible accent there. I did not watch this show, so I'm not an expert on it, but I thought it was an interesting bit of news to talk about. Warrior Nun was a TV show on Netflix adapting a fairly indie comic from the 90s. So yeah, Warrior Nun got 2 seasons, and Netflix announced that they canceled it last December. But there's been a huge fan campaign to continue it. Apparently, a lot of people thought that it was a really well done show. Showrunner Simon Barry this week linked to a Warrior Nun Saved website, which has a countdown to August 15th. And a lot of people are presuming that is going to be an announcement of where the show is going, that there will be a 3rd season on a different platform. Don't know that for a fact, but that is the speculation. If you don't know about it, Warrior Nun is adapting the manga-style comic book that was published by Antarctic Press starting back in 1993. I believe that was by Ben Dunn. I didn't make a note of that, but I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that right? And it features an orphan who develops superpowers, joins a bunch of nuns that work for the Catholic Church, and they fight angels and demons. If you read the comic, I know I saw at least a little of it, and I think it was like a Catholic run organization that like trained their nuns to like fight supernatural threats. And I'm pretty sure it came up because the Catholic Church literally does have a sect of nuns that practice martial arts. And Ben Dunn went to Catholic school, so he learned about that, and he sort of like took that and went in like a really far flung direction. I don't think that the real nun sect does not go out and fight crime. They just take martial arts as part of like, being healthy and stuff. No. Ben Edlund made the Tick. Ben Dunn with two N's is warrior nun Ariella. Not related to Battle Pope. No, not at all. I never had a desire to be a nun, with the small exception of when Sally Field was the flying nun. I was like, I'd put on a habit if I could go flying. That seems nice. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there was a show, I want to say in the 60s, it might have been in the 70s, I can't quite remember, where Sally Field played a nun who just happened to be able to fly. And the show was called The Flying Nun. All right, I'm glad I'm not the only one that knows about this. Victor mentions The Flying Nun. That's great. Oh man, Billy Idol is still, in my opinion, pretty cool. I like it. I always liked how on Buffy they decided to make the vampire Spike kind of look like Billy Idol, give him that like punk look, because a lot of vampires are sort of locked in a style from their past. And then as Spike became a more and more developed and well-rounded character, they eventually gave him the backstory that like that was Spike's look, and he inspired Billy Idol. I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. Grant Morrison teased his next project with a little bit of art, which apparently I did not realize I grabbed a super low resolution version of. Whoops. Well, just another reason for you to check out his Substack, I guess. We already knew that Grant Morrison, did I say that right? Grant Morrison is reteaming with artist Liam Sharp to make a book called Eden's End, but we didn't really know anything about what it would be about. Well, this week, Morrison posted some artwork by Liam Sharp to his Substack, which he calls Xanadu, and he wrote a little bit about what it is. They said Eden's End reunites the award-winning, goal-scoring Green Lantern team of Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp for an epic, prehistoric, barbarian sci-fi adventure that reimagines Gilgamesh, the Old Testament, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Sumerian myth, conspiracy theories, and the evil that men do. That's a lot, but that sounds like it's right in line with what Grant Morrison gives us. They have a way of mixing together a lot of different things. Did I use the wrong pronoun at one point? It was not intentional. It was not intentional. Sometimes I just misspeak. But anyway, I tend to enjoy a lot of what Grant Morrison does. Not everything has been like 1000% my cup of tea, but a lot of it is. A lot of it I really, really love. I think Grant Morrison has big ideas, really big ideas. And I love that they can find ways to execute them in new ways. Yeah, I've done a lot of episodes that touch on Grant Morrison's work, and they've been creating interesting things for a long time now. Because when you think about it, like Animal Man, for instance, that was the 90s with Vertigo. That was a long time ago now. They've been creating a lot of really interesting stuff. A lot of interesting stuff. Oh, I see what you folks are saying. I typed the wrong pronoun there. Well, my sincere apologies to Grant Morrison as well as anyone else that is offended. That was completely unintentional. That was careless of me. My apologies. I will try to do better. So I'll move past that. Even though I love talking about Grant Morrison work, We 3 is a favorite. I love Pax Americana, although a lot of that is, to be clear, because of Frank Quitely art. Anything they've done with Frank Quitely is amazing. I loved Animal Man, Doom Patrol, loved Grant Morrison's X-Men run. Thought that was really, really interesting. Tried to shake things up with some new stuff that unfortunately kind of got reset pretty quickly, but I did love that they swung for the fences, and I think they told a good story there. Anyway. So, moving on. Here, there's going to be a Mandalorian manga in print. Viz Media announced that they are going to release that should have said Star Wars. Star Wars The Mandalorian, the manga, this September under their Viz Originals line. That's going to be a printing of the manga by Yusuke Osawa that has been appearing in Square Enix's Big Gangan magazine since May of last year. So, cool. It's, again, another adaptation of the TV show, which we've already gotten a version of from Marvel. But I do love The Mandalorian. Got a little, I don't have too many action figures, but I do have a little Mando here keeping me company. My wife let me get a unique wedding ring. I don't know. Can you see that? I guess you can't see that too well, but I got a unique wedding ring because I like The Mandalorian a lot. I do. So, let's see. How much of a knockoff of Lone Wolf and Cub is it? There is a little bit of an aspect of Lone Wolf and Cub to Mandalorian. I agree, but I don't think it completely rips off the exact stories from it, having read Lone Wolf and Cub. No more so than the fact that Star Wars has adapted things like, serial adventure movies, as well as things like dogfights, World War II, like Howard Hughes movie type dogfights and stuff like that. I liked season 3 okay, but it was not my favorite. No, season 1 and 2 were definitely better, but I didn't dislike it. Lucas loved Kurosawa. Yeah. Lone Wolf and Cub is a samurai comic, and you know what? I would say that in a lot of ways, Mandalorian is a wandering samurai. He's basically a Ronin. There's a lot. Yeah. Road to Perdition shares some storytelling tropes with it. The baby's name is Diagoro. And what is it? What is it on Mandalorian again? Baby Yoda's called something else. I'm so bad at names. Somebody can say it in chat. I can't remember. Favorite Star Wars comic character? So you're talking like an original comic character? Yeah, Black Chrysanthemum's good. No, you know what? If we're talking an original character from the comics, Dr. Aphra. Definitely Dr. Aphra. So good. I saw a bunch of Grant Morrison's show Happy. It was good. It was good. Grogu Diagoro. Yeah, there's some similarities there. That's got to be intentional, huh? There's a little bit of a sound there to it. Yeah. Grogu. How often do I dress as the Mandalorian at home and at work? Can you go above 100%? I don't have a Mandalorian costume of any kind. Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of the... when you say the legacy comics, I mean, there's sort of two eras, aren't there? Because there's really 3, now that I think of it. Because there was a comic strip in newspapers, which had some pretty brilliant artwork, honestly. There was the Marvel comic adaptation, which, boy, it went in some wild directions, but they didn't have a lot of ideas of exactly what Star Wars was, because they started making that comic after there was only one movie, and you were just like, they were just coming up with ideas without a lot of guidance on where things were going or what made Star Wars. And then there's a lot of great Dark Horse stuff too. Eventually I felt like it was getting a little too convoluted. So I was not that against the fact that Disney sort of rebooted things. I was not that against it. Because it was a lot. It was a lot. I don't think it's that much of a knockoff, though, when you actually read Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, yeah, the character of Mando and the character of Lone Wolf, pretty different, because like the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, was raised in sort of an offshoot sect of Mandalorians to be a bounty hunter. He was an orphan, etc. Whereas the main character in Lone Wolf and Cub had a high level position working for, the Shogun, and got essentially betrayed. I don't think they're that similar. I think that there's some similarities in the structure of like going on bounty hunting type missions, traveling the world with your son, your infant son. That's some similarities, but the actual character makes a pretty big difference in where they go. It really does, in my opinion. Well, yeah, I can see some similarities there too, but at a certain point, it really just becomes sort of a father and child dynamic, which is, I think, a storytelling trope. So we could track that back to probably, all sorts of, say, ancient Greek stories and stuff just as easily, if we were literate. Thank you, Ogami Ito. Yes, that's the main character. Got just one more piece of news here. Something that is manga by Naoki Urasawa. Hold on, I'm having trouble like getting everything to refresh. Hide. Why? Okay. Exactly. We're talking about archetypes. So Naoki Urasawa, one of my absolute favorite writer artists, probably my very favorite that's alive today, if I'm being honest. And the first thing I ever read by Urasawa was Pluto, an adaptation, sort of a modernization and a more grounded version of a classic Astro Boy story. I've done episodes on both Pluto and that Astro Boy story, The Greatest Robot on Earth. Both were pretty early on in comic tropes, so like, they're a little rougher and different than what I do today. But love that creator. And Netflix is creating an anime adaptation of Pluto. The bit that I've seen looked great. So if they follow the story, it's a great story. If they've got high quality animation, it's going to be a fantastic presentation. Kotaku spoke with one of the producers of the Pluto anime, Masuo Maruyama. Yeah. Masuo Maruyama at Anime Expo this past weekend, who said that Pluto is only going to be a single season. It's going to have 8 60-minute episodes. That may not seem like a lot, but it's just one storyline, and it was 8 issues. So it's totally doable, I think, in that frame. Specifically, had a quote here saying, talking about like the real world. The robotics have evolved, and we have AI, and I think things are becoming more actual or real as a story at this time and age. Now, that's a translation, but essentially the point is that it's a good time to talk about this because it is a story about sentient robots, the 8 great robots of Earth. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then like a mysterious other one. Yeah. It involves a story where both people and the great robots of the world are being killed, and robots are supposedly not able to kill, but like they are being killed. And this one, Gesicht, is a detective investigating what is doing this. So it's really cool. It should come out this year. Yep, one step ahead of Netflix. Can't cancel season 2 if the story is all in season 1. I'm pretty excited. Yeah, that length lines up with the manga. You probably could have gone a little bit longer, but unnecessary. Pluto is no longer considered a planet. This does not refer to it in a planetary sense. I think it is just using it more in the sense of the myth of Pluto, Hades, god of the underworld, god of death. Yeah. So anyway, something I'm sincerely looking forward to. Should be pretty awesome. Pluto TV is great. Know what I just discovered? My buddy John was telling me that there's a Godzilla channel on Pluto TV. So it's constantly streaming Godzilla movies 24/7. Oh my God. If I turn that on, I'll probably never get anything else done. That's a fair question. Right. I heard that there was a Netflix adaptation of the comic Nimona, but I have not read or seen that. So I didn't really address it. Yeah. I don't know if it's good or not. I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know. Here, let me add something to the stream. Remove this. Turn this on. We'll talk about some of the comics that came out this week. I've got a few things to say. Tell you what, I'm actually going to start with this. I don't usually get these black, white, and red things, but these are anthologies that Marvel makes that are in black and white with red. And I'll be honest, I only read one story in it so far because we get a story by Daniel Warren Johnson. And if you have ever followed Daniel Warren Johnson, you know he can draw one hell of an exciting Star Wars story. Things like he's made Green Leader and Old Man Skywalker, basically just fan comics about Star Wars. But this one's actually official, and it's about like Darth Vader going after some rebels. Nothing more than that. Just some really exciting dog fighting. Really, really exciting. It makes Darth Vader seem like quite the badass. Really action packed. Haven't read the rest of the stories yet. I will since I've got this, but you know, it looks good and stuff. But I got it for that Daniel Warren Johnson thing. Speaking of Daniel Warren Johnson in black and white, I mentioned that one of my favorite books that he did was Do a Powerbomb. Well, now you can get that as a trade paperback. Cool. Typically, Daniel Warren Johnson has some beautiful coloring by his collaborator, Mike Spicer. Mike Spicer is a very good colorist. But I am interested in seeing his stuff in sort of black and white, right? I like it. I like to analyze, you know, like just the line work and stuff. I like to see the approach that he uses. So I was very interested this week when I found out that there is a black and white French edition of Do a Powerbomb that is out now. A collection of it. You can get a hardcover. It's not actually that much either. So if you are interested in that, I ordered one. You do have to order it from like French store. I have a French website called Ninth Store, and you'll have to translate it. Maybe use Google Translate or just be patient. But you can order that and have it delivered, wherever. They do have ways to put in U.S. addresses, so I ordered that, and I'm excited to get to see. Since I've already read it, I'm just getting it to look at the artwork in black and white. I thought that was a really cool presentation. I wish that they had it here, but they don't, and that's okay. But I like his work in black and white quite a bit. I think that it's very cool. He tends to often use little bits of screen tone here and there, so I think that's nice to see. But anyway, this one's an easy one to pick up. They call it Star Wars Darth Vader, Black, White, and Red, issue 3. And like I say, I got it for the Daniel Warren Johnson store. What do they call a power bomb in France? They call it like the Royale with knees. I don't know. Yes, it is in French. The book itself is in French. So if you haven't read it before and you don't speak French, I would recommend getting the US edition. But if you've already got that and you're as big a fan of his storytelling as I am, you might want to get another edition just so that you could see it in black and white. Speaking of Daniel Warren Johnson, on his live stream like a week or two ago, he mentioned this book, which I thought looked really interesting. So I went online and just looked it up and was able to order it. It's called Faster by Jesse Lonergan. And it's really just an interesting storytelling exercise with race car drivers. Look at like how fast this moves, but like you've got like these little inset panels giving us an idea of what it is. So faster. We get tons of little inset panels getting to know all the characters that are in here. We get to meet some of the big characters, the more important characters in bigger panels. There's also, all the other racers are sort of shown here. We've got the racetrack. And then this thing just moves once it gets going. Just interesting storytelling. Look at like all that panel work. It really reminds me of a lot of like manga storytelling where they're telling things fast with lots of smaller panels. But like the names of the characters are really entertaining and cool too. Like I like this one, Balaclava. We've got Upton Eclair, Diesel du Jour, Mothra Pearl. Anyway, just lots of interesting characters and an exciting race. And you get to see some of their thoughts and like where they finish in the race. I thought this was a really interesting book. I definitely do recommend it. Again, this is called Faster by Jesse Lonergan. If you just Google that, you should be able to find the website right away where you can order it. Oh, yeah, sure. That's true. Yeah. So there's my ring. It's really reflective and stuff. And it's obviously upside down. Here, I can take it off. I was like, hey, if I'm going to get a ring, I just want to get something kind of fun that like is something I like. Maybe someday I'll change it. But for now, I really like this. Those are all black diamonds there, and it's just sculpted in the Mandalorian's visor. I think it's a nice ring. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Jesse is on Stardust the Super Wizard. There's, I think, only like 4 or 5 days left to do that over on Zoop, Z-O-O-P, Stardust the Super Wizard. It's an anthology book that Van Jensen's putting together. Obviously, I've made an episode about Stardust and its creator. Just wild and bizarre, and should be a really funny anthology. Got some other books here. Last Ronin Lost Years has been something that I've been enjoying because, yeah, it's just sort of easy to jump into. Ninja Turtles set in the near future where only one turtle is left, but it involves sort of like a small story in like the time just before the comic that was called The Last Ronin. This is Last Ronin Lost Years, and it focuses on, as well as in the slightly near future from that, 4 new turtles that are getting trained by April O'Neil and her daughter Casey Marie. So that's kind of cool. I like these new characters quite a bit. I would actually really like to read comics with more of, Uno and Moja. They're great. Whoops. Yes, I'll be talking about that shortly. Let's see. I have not read Hedra by Jesse Lonergan, but after reading Faster, I definitely would like to read more by Jesse Lonergan. I really would. It could be a movie. It absolutely could be. It's a little darker than I think some people are used to for Ninja Turtles, but it's interesting. And there's always at least one page in here drawn by Kevin Eastman, one of the co-creators. So yeah, if you're into Ninja Turtles, this is like a side story type thing. And it's really, I would argue, just a possible future than like anything too definitive. But I do think it's a good story. I am enjoying it. Let me skip to this one, actually, since it's also Ninja Turtles, by Stan Sakai. And really, it's at its heart, it's mostly an Usagi Yojimbo story, since that's what Stan Sakai writes. But he has had Usagi meet the turtles before through various time travel shenanigans. That's happening again, but this time with a time traveling villain from the future who's gone into the past and is creating all sorts of mechanized robots. And the turtles and Usagi and his allies are teaming up. But it's distinctly set within Usagi current continuity. In fact, last issue killed off a supporting character. So this isn't just sort of a side story at the same time, if you've never read Usagi Yojimbo before, I made an episode about that. And the nice thing is it tells stories in arcs. Um, and you don't really have to read them in order. It's never so dense, its own continuity, that you can't follow an Usagi Yojimbo story just reading whatever that arc is. It's always giving you all the context that you need there. Stan Sakai writes some fairly authentic stuff from the Edo period of Japan. Will use certain words that they translate. Will like show you just like, you know, how the government operated at the time, tell you about certain food that they would eat. It's really cool. And beyond all that, it's just fun action stuff. It's got some good jokes and stuff. I really like Stan Sakai's work a lot. This is cartoony, but when you look at it, it's also really detailed stuff. You know, like Usagi's outfit here, his samurai outfit, obviously has quite a bit of detail to it, even though Usagi himself is a fairly simple character. So there's detail when there needs to be detail. I think that he's got a very pleasant, easy to read style. The characters are very distinct and memorable, both personality wise and design wise. So there's a lot to like about Usagi Yojimbo, and I definitely recommend it strongly if you haven't read it before. Here's a comic that's so much better than it has any right to be. Because you tell me that there's going to be a Riddler comic written by the actor who played the Riddler. And that is not enough to necessarily hook my interest. It wasn't. But it turns out Paul Dano is a pretty darn good writer. He really is. He has written, or he wrote, when he was cast as the Riddler for The Batman by Matt Reeves, that movie, Paul Dano decided to write his character's backstory so that he felt that he had a well-rounded character. A lot of actors will do this, but maybe with like a little journal, giving them personal notes and stuff so that they can feel like it's a living, breathing character that they're playing. Paul Dano wrote that in a comic book script format and gave him a pretty extensive... No, not Jim Carrey. This issue is really getting... It's issue 5 of this series so far, and there's at least one more issue. In this one, he really is starting to become the Riddler. He has sort of lost his mind, and he's investigating corruption in Gotham. What's interesting about this character is, from his perspective, he's absolutely being a hero because he's exposing corruption that just absolutely pisses him off, and that's justifiable. But he goes about it in a very weird way. But he's had a horrible, weird upbringing that makes it make sense. He's very smart, but he's emotionally got like all sorts of problems. He's been treated badly. All of this that you're seeing here, by the way, including the writing, is actually drawn by Stevan Subic, and I'm guessing at the pronunciation. But it's really interesting. It really is. And we get a few like sort of photos and stuff, and it just explains. It's not like you needed to know this to enjoy the movie, but like, how did he figure out like the corruption, and how did he decide? Why would he have decided to be the Riddler? Like, why would he have done that? How did he get people to support him, and how did he plan ahead for various contingencies? This gets into that. It's way more interesting than I ever thought it would be. And he creates a very well-rounded character that at the same time is absolutely tragic. This is such a tragedy because you just know that if he had gotten a little help from the right person, whether that was sympathy or like just a kind ear or something like that, he probably could have directed his fierce intelligence in a very positive direction. And instead, he sort of goes down an incel direction. But it's so believable. It's really it's a great book. Now it is up to issue 5, so maybe that's a tough time to jump on. But I'm just going to reiterate: I did not expect this to be as good as it is. It's really, really good. Yeah, you're right. It works on a meta level as well, because we see what Paul Dano sort of was doing as part of his process for playing this character, because this is his version of the Riddler story that then DC was like, you know what? This is really well written. We want to turn this into a comic book. Okay, so that's interesting that you say that when you say reminds me of Bill Sienkiewicz. Just to be clear, this cover is by Bill Sienkiewicz. The interior is by Stevan, but cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. So your eyes did not deceive you. They both have a little bit of a similar style, but yes, this cover is by Bill Sienkiewicz. So, yeah, the rest of the issues were not done like this, like as journals, just to be clear. Infamous Mike Manhattan here mentions it looks like John Doe's journals from Seven. It's disturbing, but it's honestly like really interesting. I was like, when you first glance at it, you're like, boy, that's a lot of text for a comic, isn't it? Not like tons of pictures. It reads really, really well. It's legit interesting. And I read through it very, very quickly, despite at first going like, whoa, that's a wall of text. For a comic book, it is. But it's interesting. It's interesting. More interesting than I ever expected. It makes me like the movie even more. It makes me like the movie even more. Well, things. This is the final issue of Blue Book's story about the Hills. And the Hills were real people, Betty and Barney, who allegedly saw aliens and an unidentified flying object, and they didn't really want people to know about it. They kept it mostly to themselves, but it did slowly get out what they saw and believed by talking to like therapists and people that might have been exposed to similar things. They talked to like certain government agencies, and this is something that really happened. Now, this is like basically historical fiction because it's sort of guessing at like, the exact dialogue or the emotions that these characters had. But this is a real thing that happened to them. It really affected their lives in a big way because they both were not like people that like had ever believed in anything weird or anything, but they were both very convinced that they had an encounter. And it's pretty creepy. It's pretty creepy. Really nice, clean, easy to read art. I think Michael Avon Oeming did some great work in this. It reads fast, but it is interesting. It gives me the same feeling that I had when I was younger, like a teenager. I read books like Communion, which was later revealed to be a hoax, but at the time was thought to be real, I think, and Fire in the Sky. These stories of people allegedly abducted by aliens, and boy, did that stuff creep me out as a kid. Not that I really have ever believed that this stuff has happened, but sometimes at night when you're alone and it's really dark, it's just easy to believe something weird and scary could happen to you. Oh, did they? That's not a surprise to know, but I did not know that. They made a movie about them called The UFO Incident. I'll have to read that now that I've read the story in comic book form. But 5-issue series telling Betty and Barney Hill's story of how it impacted their lives and what they believed. Yeah, Communion scared me too, especially like the movie with Christopher Walken, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, I think it starred Christopher Walken, but I'm pretty sure that like the author like presented those as though it was like true and eventually revealed that it wasn't, if I'm remembering right. No kidding, James Earl Jones. Oh, that really interests me. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to find that. That sounds really interesting. Hmm. It's a story that stuck with me. It doesn't terrify me, but it does creep me out a little. What if this is real and you basically had no power to resist? I don't know. I picked this interesting book up from Dark Horse. This is issue 1 of The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, with an idea by James Tynion. Boy, does he get around. Written by his frequent collaborator, Tate Bromball. Art inside by Isaac Goodhart, who's done all sorts of great comics. I really like Isaac, and I like Isaac's work. Christopher Chaos is a kid who's basically a scientific genius. He's most likely on the spectrum because of how he sees the world. He has trouble maybe making friends. He's probably got some sort of powers as well, just to be clear, like something like telekinesis or something. And into the sort of sci-fi type of character, he has a crush on this new boy in school, only to find out eventually that he's a werewolf. He's a monster. And Christopher witnesses him get killed by these weird hunters. So he's like this sci-fi sort of guy thrown into a world that has supernatural stuff. It looks like it could go in a lot of interesting directions. Christopher himself is a very unique and believable character, but very strange, very strange. So, yeah, I recommend this too. This is, there's been some good comics this week. Wow. I'm trying to like look and see. So just to be clear, like ones that I put higher on my recommendation list would include Riddler Year One and then Blue Book. But I've enjoyed. Oh, wait. Well, I'm almost skipping this over just because it wasn't a book that came out this week. But Faster's incredible. They're all really high on my list. Got the latest issue of Red Room because I always want to support the cartoonist kayfabe guys. I'll be honest, I'm getting a little burned out on Red Room. I think that it's almost over because I know that Ed is starting to work on a comic strip idea instead. I liked it at first. I'm just a little burned out, and it's just so nihilistic too. I don't know what I've got to say. You know, like storytelling wise, it's fine, but it's just so dark and mean spirited that like I feel like a little goes a long way. And I don't blame Ed at all for like if it interested him, cool. It definitely sold well. So, you know, like tell a bigger story. That's totally fine. I'm kind of burnt out on it personally. I don't think it's bad. It's also not for everybody because it is sincerely really, really violent. It's really violent. But it's just maybe it's a little too nihilistic for me at a certain point. It's just a little too dark. I really wanted some of the bad guys to start getting a comeuppance or at least have some sort of a conclusion to it. Maybe that will still happen. Maybe. Yeah. Like I said, I was saying it's good storytelling, and part of that, I agree with you, Kevin. Each book is self-contained, and that's impressive. And I think he's definitely trying new stuff with his art. I don't think that Ed is being stagnant. He's playing with all sorts of screen tones. I think he's pushing himself in terms of detail and just storytelling techniques, like, you know, like when he's going to sort of tell something without a background here, like and use negative space, when he's deciding to put something embedded on this as though you're reading it, you're seeing it online, like on YouTube or something like that. Those are interesting storytelling decisions. So I'm impressed with that. But I'm ready for something new. That's all. I'm ready for something new. Last monthly comic that I picked up is She-Hulk. And I, again, think that Rainbow Rowell has made this very charming. I can't believe we're already at 14 issues because it feels like I'm still getting to know the status quo and everything. It's than other She-Hulk runs have been. Currently, she's having trouble being able to connect with her boyfriend Jack of Hearts because he's in like this suit that prevents his radiation from leaking, but that also means that they can't quite like really engage with each other anymore. And she's starting to fall a little bit for this thief called the Scoundrel. But the Scoundrel actually is not a great person. It's charming. It's really a good romance. It really is. I think it's really well done. Oh yeah, I ordered that too, Kevin. I ordered Jim Rugg's new book, True Crime Funnies, off of his website. So I'm looking forward to that. I buy all of Ed's stuff and Jim's stuff, but I never picked up Red Room. It was too hardcore. It's a lot to take. It's a lot to take. I thought I missed a question, but now I don't see it. Sorry. Oh, there it is. Okay, Wally asked me, I'm currently reading the Fantagraphics Usagi Yojimbo run. I like it fine, but would you say it gets better? It does get better, yeah. It does. I think it gets really rewarding as you go on because people legit sort of like age and grow. But tone-wise and art-wise, I think you'll know right away whether you like it or not. But I do think it gets more rewarding as you go on. I do. Yep, final page was a good little twist to what the current stories are. I totally agree that Jen Bartel's covers are just so good. She's so talented. It's amazing. And then the other thing that I read this week that came out was the latest double volume of Tokyo Revengers. Oh, please. I absolutely adore Stray Bullets by David Lapham. It's something I would love to talk about on Comic Tropes, but it's a huge, long story told non-linearly, and it's like a crime comic, so there's mysteries involved. It is a tough one to tackle in terms of deep analysis. It has sort of stumped me as to exactly how I want to enter, because I do not want to fall down a rabbit hole of trying to summarize Stray Bullets. That is a battle you can't really win. You got to experience it yourself. But I do have things to say. I love crime comics, and I think Stray Bullets is honestly a masterpiece. It's really impressive. I've been enjoying Tokyo Revengers. I won't say that it's my asset, to be clear. Definitely having trouble with the stream, like blinking out. Sorry, folks. But why am I having so much trouble with that tonight? Okay. This has a great part of a story where Takamichi and his friends go up against a really horrible delinquent villain that can absolutely just kick their ass. And if you don't know, like, the premise in Tokyo Revengers, Takamichi is able to go back in time into his own life with all the memories of what happens, with the goal to save the life of his teen girlfriend, who in the modern day is killed. And he can keep going back to like the present day, and there are like things that he's changed, but he hasn't changed it to make it a good timeline yet. So he keeps having to go back to his days like as a teenage delinquent, trying to prevent basically gang warfare. And it's really good. He gets his ass kicked a lot. But this particular arc, taking place on Christmas Eve, features some of like the best character motivation stuff, some of the best twists and turns as to like what happened in the past that affects versions of the future, and some of the most heartbreaking stuff, but also some of the best feel-good comeback stuff for the good guys. It's really interesting. Wait, is that a joke? Okay, that's a joke, right? I'm pretty sure that's a joke because words. Oh my God, this keeps blinking out on me. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's definitely a joke. Got it. I like it though. I like Tokyo Revengers. Maybe someday I'll try the anime. I don't know. I tend to prefer reading. That's all. I tend to prefer reading to watching stuff. But I'm going to call it a night there, I think, in terms of what I have to talk about. Like I say, at this point, I am going to continue to work on my YouTube stuff. I am going to go over and work on editing the next comic Tropes. Boy, do I want to get it to you guys. I think it's going to be interesting to a lot of people. I hope I'm introducing people to something new for the most part. And if you already do know it, I hope I've got a few opinions that are useful for you. I've had a great time tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. I think my goal is to get this comic Tropes up. I don't think I'll be able to. So my goal instead would be, I'm going to take one day off this week to go out and get myself a new computer, I think, as long as it's in stock and everything. As long as it's in stock, I'll probably get it this week. So hopefully, potentially as soon as next week when I do this stream, it might be better. Quality-wise. Forgetting some salutes. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, that hurt a little bit. But yeah, there you go. A couple double salutes for you all, because I love you all. Thank you so much for engaging and throwing out questions and comments. I think it makes things more interesting, even for the folks that are watching this once it's archived. So thank you very much. I'm not good enough, Samuel, to build it one myself. So anyway, but we'll see. Great time. Yep. Thank you for jumping in. Nice to see so many folks. And I will get a new comic Tropes to you ASAP, no matter what. Let's go have some dinner. Let's go. If you're in America, blow off your fingers with some fireworks tomorrow. My wife sent me a funny meme. It was, you can pry these fireworks out of my cold, dead fingers when you pick them up off the street. They're right over there. I was like, all right, that's a pretty good one. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Keep reading comics.